All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some Apple news today. A whole bunch of announcements dropped.
Yeah, it's spring for Apple, right? New stuff everywhere.
Exactly. So we've got the usual, press releases and spec
Of
sheets.
course, gotta have those.
But we also dug up some commentary from Tom's Guide. Always love their take.
Always insightful.
So our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to make sense of it all.
Right. Figure out what's really worth getting excited about.
Or maybe skeptical of.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's interesting is it's not just about the individual announcements.
Right.
It's more like they all fit together,
Oh, like a puzzle.
Exactly, like a puzzle to show us Apple's bigger strategy.
Okay, so what's the big picture then? What's the one thing our listeners should know? Like the headline.
I'd say it's pretty clear Apple is going all in on AI.
Oh, really? You think so?
Oh, yeah. But they're calling it Apple Intelligence. And it's not just like a feature here and there. It's
Right.
like woven into everything they announced.
Oh, wow. So it's more than Siri just getting a little smarter this time.
Way more. We're talking rewriting emails to sound different.
Whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, like make this invite more friendly kind of stuff. Or generating images just from descriptions you give it.
No way.
Yeah, and summarizing audio notes, identifying stuff through the camera.
So basically like AI on steroids.
Pretty much. But what I find fascinating is it's not just random AI features everywhere.
Right.
They're positioning this Apple Intelligence as like the base for how we'll use Apple stuff in the future.
So how would that actually change things for like the average person using their iPhone or whatever?
Okay, so think about email. Right now, it's mostly spam filters.
Yeah, the junk folder's my best friend.
Right. But with Apple Intelligence, it could like prioritize messages based on who you talk to most.
Oh, that's smart.
Or what projects you're working on, even suggest replies that fit the sender's tone.
Wow, that's some next level stuff.
Right. It's not just features. It's supposed to make our digital lives genuinely better.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But part of me is also a little creeped out. I mean, how much will this thing know about us?
I hear you. That's a valid concern for sure. It brings up big questions about like privacy
Yeah, exactly.
and data security. How much do we want to share? And do we have control over how Apple uses that data?
Definitely something to think about. Okay, moving on from the slightly scary AI future, let's talk iPhone 16e. This one stood out to me.
The value play, they're calling it.
Right. But he's still got a lot of the good stuff, like 48MP camera.
A18 chip too.
Oh, yeah, and even some of the satellite features.
It's a clever move, honestly. They're giving people a lot of those flagship specs, but for less money.
But here's the thing. Tom's Guide said it's not a huge leak if you have, like, the 15E already.
Yeah, true.
So who's this actually for, then?
I think they're aiming at two groups. One, Android users who are curious about Apple but find the prices,
A little steep.
Yeah. And two, people with older iPhones ready to upgrade but don't need the absolute latest.
Oh, that makes sense. And they are pushing that trade-in program pretty hard.
Oh, yeah, they know how to tempt us.
Okay, so we've got Apple Intelligence in everything and a new iPhone that seems, like, strategically placed. Anything else that jumps out at you from all this news?
Yeah, there's another thread running through it all. It's this big focus on America.
Oh, right. That $500 billion investment over the next 4 years? Making headlines.
Exactly. And it's not just like assembled in the USA stickers.
Right.
They're talking about new factories, expanding their advanced manufacturing fund big time. It's a serious commitment.
So it's not just about building iPhones here. What else are we doing?
Well, they're putting a lot of money into silicon engineering, hiring AI experts.
Wow.
And they're building a whole new server farm in Houston, specifically for Apple Intelligence.
Oh, interesting.
This tells me they want to control the whole process.
Like from start to finish.
From designing the chips to the data that feeds their AI, the whole shebang.
That is bold. Especially with all the, global supply chain stuff going on.
And the U.S.-China situation.
Right, right. So is this Apple basically saying we're betting on America?
It seems that way, yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
What do you mean?
Well, will it actually lead to more good jobs here? Or just like more automation and maybe even fewer jobs eventually?
Ooh, yeah, good point. So we've got Apple Intelligence driving everything, a new iPhone with a purpose, and a big bet on American-made. Anything else before we get into the specifics?
One more thing. Amidst all the flashy stuff, there's the subtle theme of refinement.
Refinement.
Yeah, like making things better, not just adding new stuff, especially with iOS 18.4.
Oh, right. Everyone's talking about that. But honestly, it seems less about brand new features and more about polishing what's already there.
Exactly. Tom's Guide called it evolution, not revolution.
Haha, I like that.
Right. Think about it. A new Apple News Plus section just for food.
Ooh, for the foodies.
Yep. Expanded language support for Apple Intelligence, a feature for ambient music to help you focus.
Oh, and they're finally letting us set a default translate app.
It's the little things
Right,
sometimes.
but those little things can make a big difference.
Absolutely. It shows they're paying attention to what people want and fixing the little annoyances.
Okay, so we've got a lot to dig into here. Apple Intelligence is the big story,
Definitely.
but there are tons of interesting details and, like, potential consequences to think about.
For sure. And some big questions to answer.
Like what?
Well, like, will Apple Intelligence really live up to all the hype? Or is this just Siri with a new name? And is this U.S. investment a smart move for the future or just a PR thing?
All right, let's get into it.
It's kind of wild how Apple's use of all this, like, to be more than just a tech company.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, almost a cultural force, you know?
I think I see what you're getting at.
We were talking about that U.S. investment.
Right, the factories and all that.
And now, bam, they announced this partnership with Kendrick Lamar for the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, for the halftime show.
Exactly. It's like they're not just building stuff here, they're investing in American talent.
Showcasing it on a huge stage.
The biggest. And they're using Apple Music to do it, tying it all together.
That is smart. The Super Bowl is like marketing gold.
Millions watching, everyone talking about it online.
But it's more than just exposure, right?
Way more. Think about the message. They chose Kendrick, an artist known for, like, innovation.
Pushing boundaries.
Yeah. Apple wants to be seen as creative, not just in tech, but in, like, the arts, too.
It's their whole think different thing.
Exactly. And it feeds into this idea of, like, an Apple ecosystem.
Not just devices, but how we live.
Yeah, the music you listen to, the shows you watch, they want to be part of it all.
Speaking of which, let's talk about how we actually use our devices. iOS 18.4.
Tom's Guide called it a refinement.
Right, not a revolution.
Yeah, they're polishing what's there, addressing feedback, not like a total overhaul.
So what are the highlights then? What should our listener be excited about?
Well, for one, they're adding a whole food section to Apple News Plus.
Oh, right, this is for the serious foodies out there.
Tens of thousands of recipes, articles from fancy food magazines.
Restaurant recommendations, they said?
It's smart. They're taking what they already have, these services, and making them more useful.
Not just throwing random features in.
Right, it's like thoughtfully integrated into how people actually live.
Makes sense. So we've got food covered. What else is new in iOS 18.4?
I'm interested in this ambient music feature.
Oh yeah, I saw that. What is it exactly?
It's like different soundscapes to help you focus or relax.
Even sleep, they said.
Right, from Control Center, it's tapping into that whole mindfulness trend.
Oh, I see. Like Apple knows we're all stressed and glued to our screens.
Exactly, so they give us tools to, like, chill out using those screens.
It's almost ironic, but I kind of like it.
And then there's the smaller stuff, like more languages for Apple Intelligence.
Oh, and finally, we can set a default translate app.
It's the little things, but they add up.
For sure, they make a difference. Okay, shifting gears a bit. What about this new Apple-made cellular modem, the C1?
That's them showing off their U.S. investment.
Designing and making it in-house. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, it gives them more control, right? They're not relying on other companies for such a key part.
With all the supply chain worries lately, that control is probably super valuable.
Definitely. Plus, it shows they're serious about innovation, not just putting devices together.
But making the tech inside those devices.
Exactly. Long time thinking. And it's all happening in America.
Which brings us back to that whole ecosystem thing.
Right. They control the hardware, the software, the services, and now even more of the components.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. Apple Intelligence is huge.
The main story.
But tons of details and potential consequences to think about.
From Super Bowl to user experience tweaks, it's big picture stuff.
And they're not afraid to make big moves, like that U.S. investment or making their own modem.
It'll be fascinating to watch how it all plays out.
For sure. Okay, time to zoom in a little. Let's talk about some smaller details that people might have missed.
I love that. Often, it's the little things that are the most telling.
For example, I was impressed with the new accessibility features. Apple always nails that.
They do. Always innovating to make things more inclusive.
Did you see that vehicle motion cues thing to help with motion sickness?
Yeah, so thoughtful. Prevents nausea from all the, like, screen movement.
Classic Apple, thinking about the human experience.
And then there's music haptics. It uses those tiny vibrations, haptics, to, like, match the music.
Wait, what? So you can feel the music?
That's the idea. It's for people who are deaf or hard of hearing to make music more accessible.
That's amazing. Technology bridging those gaps.
And it's not just for accessibility. It could make music more immersive for anyone.
True. I mean, who wouldn't want to feel the music?
It's pushing the boundaries of what tech can do, but in a human way.
Okay, accessibility's covered. What other hidden gems did you find?
I'm fascinated by the control center changes.
Oh yeah, tons of customization.
You can rearrange stuff, add new controls, even make multiple pages for different things.
It's like they're finally giving us the control we've been asking for.
But it's a balancing act, right? Apple's all about simplicity.
Yeah, But they also want us to be able to personalize things.
So it's finding that sweet spot, and I think they're doing a good job with these updates.
For sure. And then there's the redesigned passwords app with security alerts built right in.
Very timely with all the data breaches happening.
Right. They even tell you if your password's too weak or if you've reused it somewhere else.
It's like having a little security guard for your digital life.
I like that. Speaking of security, what about the iPhone 16e? That's being pushed as the budget-friendly option.
Makes sense. The smartphone market is crazy competitive these days.
They need something appealing at a lower price.
And the 16E seems decent. It's got a lot of those flagship features like the good camera and chip.
But it's those satellite features that I'm most curious about.
Oh yeah, free for 2 years, then it's a subscription.
Bold move. Could be huge or could flop.
Depends if satellite connectivity becomes like the norm.
Imagine being connected anywhere, even in the middle of nowhere.
Compelling, right? But also, does it create a digital divide? Who can afford it?
Yeah, good point. Something to think about as tech keeps advancing.
We can't just focus on the shiny new toys. Gotta think about the bigger picture, too.
Well said. Okay, so we've gone through a lot here.
Apple Intelligence, U.S. manufacturing, refining the experience, even the Super Bowl.
Hopefully our listeners feeling more informed, maybe even a little inspired.
That's the goal, right? Give you the knowledge to navigate all this crazy tech stuff.
Exactly. But before we move on, let's loop back to Apple Intelligence for a rec.
The star of the show.
They're clearly all in on this.
The base for everything they're doing.
But it's still kind of mysterious, isn't it? We know what it can do, but not really how.
Or what it can't do.
Yeah, it's like a black box. Exciting, but also a bit unnerving.
Exciting because it could change everything.
But unnerving because we're trusting Apple with a lot.
Our data, our decisions.
So the question is, how much trust are we comfortable with? And what happens if something goes wrong?
That's a huge question, and one we'll have to keep asking as Apple Intelligence gets more powerful.
Sounds like we've got some homework to do, pondering the future of AI and all that.
Definitely a topic worth thinking about, and one we'll keep coming back to, for sure.
Looking forward to it. All right, time for a quick breather before the final stretch of this Apple News Marathon.
Can't wait to see what other insight that we dig up.
All right, we're back, ready for the final stretch of this Apple News extravaganza.
Round 3.
We've covered a lot, but, there are always a few more things to uncover, right?
Oh, yeah. Always some hidden gems tucked away.
Exactly. So we were just talking about Apple Intelligence being a bit of a black box.
Still so much we don't know.
And I think it's worth looking at how that actually plays out in some of these new features.
Like in practice.
Yeah. So let's talk about the iPhone 16e, specifically the visual intelligence stuff. This is where Apple Intelligence seems to get really, real.
Totally agree. It's not just about photos anymore.
It's using the camera to, understand the world.
Interact with it, even.
Right. They're talking about identifying objects, places, getting info instantly.
Guiding you through new places you've never been.
It's like a personal AI that can see.
Picture this. You're walking down the street, see a cool jacket in a store window.
Okay, yeah.
You point your phone at it, and Apple Intelligence is like, bam, here's the brand, the price, online store selling it, reviews.
Whoa, that's pretty awesome. No more squinting at labels or frantic Googling.
Instant knowledge gratification.
Haha, I like that. It's like making the whole world searchable.
Interactive, too, and not just seeing things, but getting info and taking action.
Oh, and think about travel. You're at some landmark, point your phone.
Instant history lesson.
Best photo spots, nearby restaurant recommendations.
It's like a tour guide in your pocket, but one that knows what you like.
Okay, so we've covered seeing the world. What about being connected to the world anywhere? Those satellite features on the 16e are pretty mind-blowing.
Emergency SOS, roadside assistance, even Find My using satellites. It's wild.
It feels futuristic.
Apple's betting that being connected from literally anywhere is going to be huge.
But they're also betting people will pay for it.
Right, those features are only free for 2 years, then it's a subscription.
Big question is, will this be like the new normal? Like having cell service?
Or will it stay a niche thing just for adventurers and people in remote areas?
It's a risk, but it could pay off big time if they're right about the future.
High risk, high reward.
Okay, before we wrap up, one more detail I gotta mention. The 16e uses USB-C.
Oh yeah, the lightning cable finally bites the dust.
Seems small, but it's symbolic, I think.
For years, Apple held on to that lightning connector.
They loved it.
Controlled the accessories, kept them different from everyone else.
But now it seems like they're choosing compatibility.
Convenience for users?
It's like they're saying, okay, being part of the bigger tech world is more important than our special cable.
Plus, it's good for the environment. Less e-waste.
Right. Win-win. It shows they're willing to adapt, even if it means letting go of something they loved.
It's kind of like a sign of maturity.
All right, I think we've officially squeezed every last drop of insight out of these Apple announcements.
We've gone deep.
Big trends. Apple Intelligence, that U.S. investment, refining the user experience.
All the implications, balancing convenience with control, the future of connectivity.
The questions of affordability, who gets left behind.
We do get some cool stuff, those accessibility features, the switch to USB-C.
So, big picture, what should our listener be thinking about after all this?
I think Apple's at a crossroads, embracing new tech like AI, but also doubling down on what makes them Apple.
Simplicity, the user experience.
They want to push boundaries, but they also know they have a responsibility.
It's a company in transition.
Figuring out their place in this crazy tech world that's changing so fast makes them super interesting to watch.
Yeah, love them or hate them, Apple's always going to be shaking things up, shaping the future.
Can't deny that.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it.
If you're feeling extra curious, go check out those source materials we mentioned. There's always more to learn.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into the tech world.
See you next time.